Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today, so that's all good. Anywho, things to tell you before the reading begins. If it resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via link in the description box below. You can go to Selfie or you can come over to Circle. If you come to Circle, you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost, plus come participate in live classes that we're running over there and just hang out with a really extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Right, those links actually, for there are multiple. Let's flip this camera around a second. So we're going to pull an oracle card from this deck here. This is the Liminal Forest. Look how extraordinary this is, because people seem to like it, and it's been pretty spot on actually, with giving us a bit of a broad overview at the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then we'll cut the deck here. This is your card. We will have a look at it at the end, but for now we'll just put those cards out of the way and get the Night Sun Tarot out. Let me give this another shuffle just because why not? So can I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? What's going on with Sag? Right, so we've got 2 to start. We have the Tower and we have the 7 of Wands. That's interesting. Okay. Tell me about current energy, please, for Sagittarius. What's going on with Sag? Okay. We have the 3 of Swords on its side. And what's coming towards Sagittarius, please, for May? Ooh, almost lost it. Got it. We've got the Hanged Man with the Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Now, this is quite interesting because the Hanged Man speaks about a change of perspective. And we've got 2 cards here that are talking about an emergent truth, which I think is very, very interesting indeed. You know, notwithstanding this towery stuff that's going on over here. So let's get some clarifiers out. I'll tidy all this up in a second and put some meat on the bones of this. Tell me about the Tower. Fucking what? Okay, we have the Tower reversed. Tell me about the 7 of Wands. Got another reversal. It's the 6. Interesting. Tell me about the 3 of Swords, please. No. Let's get another card for this, because I want to stick something over the top in the middle. Oh, no, that's too many. Right, 9 of Swords, Devil, 7 of Swords, 7 of Wands. Look at this, Sag. This is very strange indeed. Right, I'm showing you these cards so that you can see that they're here. It's too many. I'm not going to take them, but we've got some internal battling going on there for sure. I'll just shuffle all of this back in. Tell me about the Tower and the 7 of Wands. 2 of Swords on its side. Right, okay. Now tell me about the 3 of Swords. We have the Temperance card. That's you, Sagittarius, in the Major Arcana. We also have the Knight of Cups and we have the 8 of Wands. Tell me about the Hanged Man. 3 of Swords. More massive cards. 10 of Wands, 8 of Pentacles, 4 of Swords. Right, we're going to take all of those, even though this has made an absolute, clusterfuck of my table. Let's try and tidy it up. What a strange set of cards. And I say it's strange because they, there's these reflecting. We saw the 7 of Wands come out there before as well. There's a lot of consecutive cards, but everything feels very, very muddled. Sag. Now, this is interesting because I seem to recall last month that I effectively gave you a prescription for fun. I said, go do things that light you up and make you feel good. And I know that some Sages at least were having, were kind of relocating. I'm looking at the Tower specifically, which can sometimes represent, a move, a physical move. But I feel like there's something unexpectedly trying to wriggle up to the surface here. Now, what I don't feel is that for most Sagittarians for the last 6 weeks that they have been hit by towers. It feels like there's something much subtler going on here. Neither do I feel like this Three of Swords actually relates to a heartbreaking situation that's going to emerge for you. There's something... I feel almost claustrophobic when I'm looking at all of this, and it doesn't feel like I'm being externally oppressed. It feels like there's something kind of juggling around inside me that's actually trying to break out. Let me get this other deck up here because I feel like we're going to need it. And so if there's been a tower at all, I feel like the tower's internal. But it's interesting that we've got this Mars in Leo, Seven of Wands here, and then reflected a reversed Six of Wands, because this is where we feel protective or guarded about something, right? Sometimes it can even be defensive about stuff. But the Six of Wands, generally speaking, represents success, right? So when it's in the reverse, it represents feeling like we haven't been successful in something. And we have the Tower in the upright and the Tower reversed. Feels like they've kind of cancelled each other out. And the struggle here for me, for you, Sagittarius, feels like there is a direction of travel that you are maybe feeling intuitively is arising, but there's something that's sitting in the way of it, right? So we've got the Two of Swords here. And when the Two of Swords is that way around, we are quite simply dealing with what we don't know that we don't know, which is why we get stuck in a bit of an impasse with ourselves, right? Because we kind of need more information to make a decision about something, but that information isn't really forthcoming, right? And we end up in this sort of weird stasis. When the Two of Swords shows up in the reverse, generally speaking, that stasis is being broken and we are being released from it in some sort of way, right? But it's almost like it's a halfway house for you. I don't know if you have been anticipating some sort of tower and it didn't come, right? The two towers effectively cancelling each other out. And you are expecting to struggle and expecting to fight. And then that didn't seem to happen either. Like, you feel like you're bouncing around in some sort of weird void here, Sagittarius. And I don't think that it's a terrible place to be, but it doesn't feel like it has any kind of meaningful direction. And it feels like stuff that you were expecting hasn't come in, but then you weren't really knocked sideways by something you weren't expecting either. So that should just be neutral, right? That would be like, okay, everything's just going on swimmingly, except it's not. There's something about all of this is bothering the fuck out of you. Well, tell me about these towers. Why are these towers here for? We've got the Knight of Pentacles and we've got the Six of Swords. With the Two of Swords, again, at the bottom of the deck. Now, there's something kind of coming in tangentially about consequences of things, right? Overlooking details of things. And if there has been something that's cropped up because you overlooked details of things, like, you're just going to have to move the fuck on from that, Sagittarius, right? But I wonder if there's been a few things that have happened recently that involve details that haven't really been seen because you kind of didn't know what you didn't know. And you're becoming aware of what you don't know that you don't know, right? Which is half of the battle. But it's left this kind of aftertaste of kind of expecting something to hit. Now, it's not hit. It's not hitting. But it's like there's a little spectre of doom that's hanging out in the periphery of your vision. Well, it's like when you know you've forgotten something and you don't know what it is. Now, if we were to look at the cards in that way, then what the Six of Swords is saying is put it down and move the fuck on, right? Learn the lesson, just accept it for what it is. Don't blow it up into something that it's not. But something about this seems to have really rattled you quite a bit. I'm looking at the darkness in these cards, right? There's darkness around the Son of Pentacles here. That's Virgo energy, by the way. That's why I'm talking about detail of stuff. Being fastidious, being methodical about things. I mean, this might be paperwork related or something like that, right? And then we've got these 6 swords here, and we've got this little rainbow of hope at the top, but there's a darkness here too. And then we're here at the two of swords, and although that is illuminated, it's illuminated by an eclipse. So it's not really giving out the light that we would like, hence still being relatively in the dark about stuff. More dark energy. There's 9 of Wands. It's the moon in Sagittarius underneath there. It's like there's something really chewing at your emotional state. Feeling like you've forgotten something, feeling like you've overlooked something, and kind of waiting to be ambushed by it, even though that ambush hasn't really come. Chariot in reverse. I mean, well, for some of you, quite simply, it could be car related, right? But it feels like an unease about moving forwards without having double checked, triple checked, probably quadruple checked the details of stuff, lest the ambush is incoming and you didn't do enough to check the details to see where that might be coming from. Now, when we come into, right, it feels like a sword of Damocles, Sagittarius. That feels a little bit like what you're wrestling with here. When we come into your current energy, that sword of Damocles literally is still there, because we've got the 3 of Swords showing up on its side. Now, again, it's a sword of Damocles because it hasn't actually dropped yet, right? If it was this way round, then we have all of the information and it has made contact with our emotional state and it has been uncomfortable. When it shows up in the reverse like this, it's like, well, yeah, okay, it's time to start getting over it, right? Let the gravity do its thing, pull the swords out of the heart, and then maybe we can start kind of trying to make sense of what all of this is and learn from it and move on. But on its side like this, like I said, it's still a sword of Damocles. It's just kind of sitting there, and we don't have the information that we require, right? You see that the 8 of Wands is on its side. If it was in the upright, we could be talking about an amplification and acceleration, some sort of increase in momentum in some given situation. Or we could talk about incoming communication that is giving us that, right? The information that we've been waiting for, the ambush that we've been waiting for. But we have not got that. Neither have we got it in reverse, saying it's okay, right, this is not going to happen. What we've got is a sideways one saying Sword of Damocles. We've also got a sideways Knight of Cups, which isn't really knowing emotionally what to do with this lack of information, actually, right? So if we just pull back from this just for a second, I would say that the thing that you're dealing with, Sagittarius, is not the problem. Neither is it the lack of information about the problem. It's how you deal with the feeling that the universe is about to ambush you. Right? What do you do with that so that it does not stop you from your duties, your responsibilities, but also your ability to have fun, right? Yeah, it feels like you have been quietly spiraling about something somewhere. And this Temperance card is saying, like, sometimes you need to employ just a little bit more than dumb luck to help you get through a situation, right? So we're looking at all of these cards as they're sitting here looking at us, right? We've got the Temperance card. It's about balance, it's about equilibrium, it's about healing. It is also a card of talking about conquering adversity. Now, there's something about the stakes here that feel like they are relatively high. And I don't think that you like the fact that this seems to be somewhat out of your hands. Hence, you're waiting for the ambush somewhere. But if the issue is not the issue, and if the lack of information about the issue is not the issue, then what remains is, how do you deal with that feeling? Because honestly, the practical answer is kind of here in the Knight of Pentacles. It's like, well, you need to start getting a little bit more precise with your stuff, with your dealings with things, right? You need to attend to the detail of things. You need to learn the lesson and move on, and not hold on to it, essentially, you know, potentially creating some sort of fucking thought form that gives this some shape, because you've got a really impressive manifestation ability, Sagittarius, and you don't actually want to bring something like this to your door. Nevertheless, the feeling's here to show you something, and it's, I think, in some way or another, it's about controlling your mind for sure. What about this Temperance card? But more importantly, controlling your emotions. We've got the Six of Wands now. This is in the upright, and it is speaking to victory or success. But it's also talking to change. This is quite interesting because, you know, from here in the reverse, which is the anticipation of the thing, to what you can practically do to deal with it, and now it's in the upright. It's all sitting around how you deal with whatever the universe has just given you as some sort of lesson, right? It's almost asking you to be a little bit more switched on about the minutiae of your life for some reason or another, rather than getting angsty about the fact that you're expecting some sort of ambush. Now we have the King of Swords there, which is quite a quite a strong card of taking charge of things. Right? All of the kings are really strong about taking charge of things. We might say particularly with relation to paperwork or to technology things, right? The swords would represent, you know, writing and things like that, but it would also represent emails, potentially. And the book stops with the King of Swords, but he's kind of comfortable with that because he takes the time to be thorough and methodical about what it is that he is dealing with. Now, there is a suspicion here that maybe you might have made a rookie error with something, and you're expecting the consequences of this to be really quite big. Certainly enough to kind of have you seized up and not moving forwards. But I wonder if part of that feeling is just sort of having you procrastinate around a thing rather than dealing with it head on. You know, the issue of communication may not be that the information that you're looking for isn't here yet. It's just simply that you haven't addressed it head on. And I'm more concerned about the way that you emotionally balance whatever issue this is, and intellectually, obviously, of course, because we've got the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords here. And find a way to put this in the right place in your head. Your reading is very strange, Sagittarius. Like, I have done most of the readings for May now at the point I'm recording this. And I said that I would say there are two signs for whom they're kind of in what do you call it? Like waiting mode almost, while they're working some stuff out. I'm thinking about planes flying around. I can't remember what the word is that we're looking for here, right? But almost all of the other signs are kind of driving forwards with some sort of new start. Now, Sagittarius is always fucking moving, right? So generally speaking, you don't need massive planetary influences to help you move forwards. Usually you're just doing that anyway. But the fact that everything seems to have stopped with the Chariot reversed and become a little bit unstable in your own, in that sense of kind of winning at life that Sagittarians do quite well. And then the lesson here seemingly being there's something that you need to balance out here, and it's not the problem, neither is it the lack of information about the problem. It's about how you deal with this kind of uncertainty that seems to be threatening your rather unique take on personal security and personal stability. Which is very, very strange for a monthly reading. Like, so here, we've got the Nine of Cups on its side, and it is rather pointing to the fact that there is an emotional rebalancing that is actually needing to be brought to bear here. It's nothing to do with what you think you've forgotten or what you might have overlooked or anything like that. It's the way that you're holding it in yourself. Now, we could go kind of deeper on this, and I think we probably will go deeper on this in the extended, because what I can extrapolate from this is that there's one, maybe two, very specific ways in which Sagittarius's confidence can be knocked by and it will definitely revolve around overlooking a detail, right? Because Sagittarius is a very broad brush sign, not particularly given to looking at the details of things, to be quite honest, because it's just not what you're about, right? It's always big picture stuff. And whilst you are incredibly resilient, and in most instances have no issue just sort of sagging your way out of trouble as quickly as you sagged your way into it, and you're all a little older and wiser now than you used to be, right? There are a couple of different ways, maybe only one, that has you kind of feeling a little bit like you're folding in on yourself. Like I said, there's a little lack of confidence kind of creeping in here. And where the obvious thing to do, which you would ordinarily do most times, would be kind of just take the L and forget about it, right? Move on to the next thing. There's something about this that's really rattled you. It's made you really uncomfortable, and I do think that you're holding on to it. Now, whatever the L is, there was a lesson there. There was something for you to notice that you have not noticed, right? I'm thinking specifically about this Two of Wands here. And I felt like that was happening anyway. For some of you, it could be around trust of another. Maybe you trusted somebody else to pick up the slack and they didn't, and actually you realising that it was probably your job to pick it up and you didn't, and now there are consequences to it. I mean, you have to take it as it resonates to you. But there's something here that seems to be pulling up just a little bit fear. Now, I'm thinking back to those four cards that jumped out, right? There was the Devil card, the Nine of Swords, the Seven of Swords, and somewhere else. And I forget what the other thing was. No doubt you'll remember, right? They seem to be very much in alignment with this little dark place of yours that's been tickled here somewhere. Not tickled, kind of like assaulted a little bit, right? And we don't like it, feeling kind of violated by the experience. But like I said, that isn't actually the problem. The problem is something else. Now, the problem might be the lack of attention to detail. That's possible. But the bigger problem is how you deal with it when the consequences of that come back to you. And how you stop yourself from catastrophizing or spiraling as a result. Because this sword of Damocles, and you'll notice that between the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords, we have sword representation, single sword representation. Neither of those are particularly hanging over your head. The question is, how do you take ownership of this sufficiently so that it stops being something that is ragging you around in the background? Right? This is an emotional issue, and possibly a processing logic detail issue too. This is a really weird fucking reading, Sagittarius. Like, what the fuck? So then we get into May proper, and we've got something very interesting happening here. The first thing that really jumps out, I mean, aside from the fact that we've got this hanged man here, there's a feeling of something quite Saturnine about everything to do with this reading. We've got the Hanged Man here, which does talk about a change of perspective for sure. It talks about, submission and potentially sometimes sacrifice. Certainly submission to a situation, right? To learn some sort of greater level of wisdom from it. But we also have Saturn, which is currently in the sign of Pisces, and for most of May it will continue to be so, but 24th, 25th or so, depending on where you are in the world, that is going to shift. Saturn is going to shift into the sign of Aries, and we're going to have a very different feeling about the energy of Saturn than we currently do. Now, this kind of gnawing feeling that's almost in the background and very, very subtle is quite Saturn in Pisces. And I'm wondering if you're getting a bit of a sort of last slap from Saturn on the way out, to help you dealing with things. Because this is a Saturn card here, and this is the Ten of Wands. And whenever I see this card, I am always asking the question, like, how are you making things difficult for yourself? Because it's implicit in the card. I mean, look at the way that he's carrying those wands. I mean, what the fuck? Who would carry wands? Like, they can't see where he's going. He's carrying far too many of them, and who knows what distance he's been transporting them on. So the question is, like, where are you making things more difficult for yourself than you need to? And then we have the Three of Swords there, now finally showing in the upright. So whatever it is that you've been worrying about, I think that we do see some sort of expression of that coming to your awareness, right? The information is hitting the heart. It is a bit grim. There is some aspect of this that you're going to have to deal with. But I feel like the reality of this is very, very different to the way that you've almost, in a Jupiter sort of way, expanded this inside yourself to make it something much, much bigger than it is. So the Hanged Man becomes then not just an expression of Saturnian energy, but also how can you look at things from a slightly different perspective? Now, most Sagittarians that I know don't really have an issue with perspective. Like, if anything, they nail it on behalf of the zodiac. And most of the other signs would benefit from adopting some aspect of Sagittarian approach to things, right? Just having a little bit more faith in themselves and in the universe, and just quite optimistic Sagittarians. But there's something about this that's really needled you. And I feel like it's exposed a vulnerability that would be very much in the order of Saturn to just kind of poke you in it and go, well, deal with that then. Like, I'm leaving soon. Get on with that. Before we get to the point where Saturn is crossing this 0 point Aries energy, which is going to fire a lot of things up. And obviously, with it being Aries, it's a sister fire sign. So we've got that, we've got that kind of supporting energy, or just inflaming energy, right? And if Pisces is about dissolution, which often it is, and it's about release, and it's about surrender, and it's about submission, then when something that is quite literally like stabbing you is coming up, it's coming up simply so that it can be resolved. Now, looking at this here, I'm not entirely sure that this is anywhere near as bad as you've made it out to be in your own heart. Right? I think you're being very quiet about it, but there's something here that you're giving yourself a really big slap about. And I want you to chill, Sag. Just calm down about this a little bit. Like, I don't think this is taking up a massive amount of your brain, but it's gnawing away, and it's stopping you from being quite as happy-go-lucky as you would usually be, right? We see that with the Ten of Wands. We actually see that with the Eight of Pentacles to an extent as well. But whatever this is, the truth of the matter is you've made it a little bit more than it needs to be. And so it's actually revealed where there's a bit of a trauma under there somewhere. And you'll know better than I what it's related to. Possibly around work, possibly around the idea of mastery of your material circumstances. Because we see that between the Ten of Wands and the Eight of Pentacles here. But it's saying there's really just a need for diligence, right? There's a little bit of hard work to do to rectify this situation externally, whatever it is. But the major work really is totally internal. Now, we go from the Three of Swords to the Four of Swords relatively quickly in the grand scheme of things. Like, we've got a little bit of work going on here. We've got a little bit of stress going on here and a sense of burden. But really this Hanged Man is sort of pointing out that the trip from here to here really doesn't need to be as long as you've made it. You seem to have inflamed something with worry. What have we got underneath there? Eight of Cups, interesting. And what have we got underneath there? Yeah, like... And the question is why you haven't been able to just put this down. That's why I feel like it's pointing to some sort of internal trauma that you might not have noticed otherwise, particularly around attention to detail. Temperance card. This is where the healing is required, right? Why have you got yourself all in a state about this? I don't understand. It's possibly because the stakes are pretty high on this. But I don't know, like you feel like you've been slightly triggered by something. And it hasn't been entirely clear to you what it is that you are supposed to do with it. Now, the Seven of Cups here could refer to some sort of expansion. Right, confusing expansion where the more your emotions got involved, the less clear the route out of this became. But I mean, the Temperance card is pointing directly at the Seven of Cups. It's like where you are feeling a little bit lost and a little bit angsty, I realise that it's not the situation. It's revealing something that has been sitting there damaged for quite a long time that requires an alchemical action at it. Well, first you have to understand it, then you need to work with it, and then you need to release it. Allow yourself to heal. We have two cards here of healing. It seems to be pointing towards you actually inevitably becoming some sort of super Sag. Super Sag, because occasionally you can look at the detail of things and you can understand what is required, and then you will just do the thing. Managing somehow to circumnavigate all of the stress that you've put yourself under over here. Let's see what the Oracle card has to say. Let's shed in some light on this. Intuition. Oh, Sag. Now there's a very interesting perspective on this. Because I think perhaps the issue is, yes, there's some sort of stress, there's some sort of trauma that this has kind of poked, right? So your nervous system is recognizing some aspect of this as threatening from something that happened in the past, right? That's what these triggers do, trigger a nervous response, right? Nervous system response. But I think that what the biggest problem here is that when it comes to something that you're still nurturing that you haven't quite worked through, and I think it's very clear to say that you haven't really known that was there, right? You don't know what you don't know. It's very difficult to separate what is pure intuition from what is catastrophizing and making something, expanding the potential for disaster in one's head. I think on this issue, you have found it very difficult to separate the two, and you've been treating what is a stress response and a catastrophization response as intuition. And what these cards are saying here is, it's not that. It's not that. Like, there's a very delicate line to walk between these things. And whatever's being revealed here that's made you stressed brought something up to the surface. The way that you've been thinking about it is not intuition, it's something else. And that something else, whether it's CPTSD, some sort of dusty corner of your heart somewhere that's had something tap on it pretty hard. The fear of the consequences of this are what you have been mistaking for intuition, and that needs separating out. Because the thing that you're healing is the confusion between the two. Excuse me. This is where the work is. And you don't have to spend long here. Not at all. But you do have to recognise that there are still going to be little pockets of this sort of thing that crop up for you here and there. And the work, such as it is about finding a way that you can test the veracity of the information that is being brought to you by your intuition. And that's quite difficult to do. But I think I would probably centre this around the strength of feeling that accompanies it. So if you're finding yourself having an instant stress response to the idea of something that your intuition has presented in front of you, then there's a distinct possibility that it is not your intuition. This is your nervous system flaring up and getting ready for some sort of fight, even though the fight hasn't come. I'm not even sure that it's the prospect of the fight that stressed you out. It was the prospect of losing the fight, which means somewhere there's a power balance, a power imbalance that you have perceived here. And there's a whole load of threat that's baked all around it. Now, we need to pull that out of the way so that when your intuition speaks, you know that you can trust it. I feel like this month is showing you where you have a tendency to, like Jupiter, expand things that you are worrying about so that they become all-encompassing. And for you to be the effective operator that you should be, we need to make sure that you have some sort of mechanism in place to recognise the difference as it shows up. Because this screeching halt that we've got here with the Chariot reversed, sorry, it's an absolute clusterfuck over there now, right? With this Chariot reversed, is actually self-imposed. And it's coming from a place of fear. I can't put another foot forward because if I do, I might step on the landmine, right? So you've been standing with your hoof above the ground being like, I'm kind of scared to put this down because my intuition is telling me that everything's about to go wrong. And it's like, well, on this occasion, that wasn't your intuition speaking. And that's okay. It's giving you something to work with. This is really, really interesting. I'm going to go over to the extended now and we're going to pull this apart a little bit because I think this has come, this has brought up something very, very important. And it's very, very important because things are going to get very, very difficult in the future, right? They're pretty difficult now, but they are going to get worse. And I haven't really spoken too much on this. I spent some time talking about it years ago. But I haven't touched on it too much recently. But like we are definitely within the time frame where things are, they're going to fall off a cliff soon. And what's really important is that we are able to see things exactly as they are, not what we think is happening, but exactly as they are, so that we can work out what we do next. And if there is one small area where your intuition is not malfunctioning, but kind of subject to some overwhelming static from an unhealed little pocket of something in Sag, then you need to know about that and you need to deal with it so that it doesn't pop up again when things are actually hard and you are trying to create the priority list in your own mind, right? And working out what you need to react to and what you don't. Because I think the Sag response is fucking lightning fast. And generally speaking, your intuition and your assessment of situations is lightning fast too. And that's fine. But lightning fast will cause, big issues around consequences if we can't trust the information that's coming in. And you can, but there's something here that you've got to let go of first. And then you can just turn the corner and carry on going. Sag. What a weird fucking reading. I swear. Right. Like I said, I'm going to the extended, so you're very welcome to join me there if you would like to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. But really, there's something very, very solid for you to work here with this month. And you can do it in the background. You can do it without anybody knowing about it, right? Because this is a you thing. Like I said, things are going to start getting very difficult very soon. And you're not battle ready if some of your instruments spin occasionally rather than pointing in a direction, right? So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.